Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, thank you. This is Wayne Bradley on Conservatives Cool Talk Radio. Thanks a lot for joining me tonight on my Fix Michigan Mondays. We've got a lot to talk about tonight, obviously with the health care bill passing last night. There are a lot of people that have a lot of different things to talk about. I want to tell everybody that's listening, I know that you're frustrated right now with everything that's going on, but the important thing is to not get mad, but to focus on the future. 2010 and 2012 is not too late. My guest tonight is Paul Welday. He's going to be running for Congress in the 9th District in Michigan. And like I said, he's going to be going against Gary Peters, someone who has voted with Nancy Pelosi 96% of the time. So, again, this is someone we definitely want to see moving on, retiring, getting out of the position as soon as possible. So I'm going to be bringing on my guest, Paul, real quickly here. Hold on real quickly. All right. I'm bringing Paul on the show. Paul?
Hey, Wayne. How you doing tonight?
All right. How you doing, sir?
Great. Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on the show. A lot of people, across Twitter, people are definitely interested in knowing what's going on all across the country, because just because you're a congressman running in Michigan does not mean, obviously, as we saw last night, that your vote wouldn't affect how everyone else is, the decisions that affect this whole country. So,
well, there were 219 members of Congress, all Democrats, by the way, that voted yes on the Obama-Pelosi-Reid health care plan, and each one of those 219 had an effect on you and me and everybody listening from coast to coast.
Right, exactly. And, just to give us, I've done a lot of research on you here, and I just want you to, could you give us a little brief synopsis of your background and what made you actually decide to run for Congress? And then we'll get into some more of the specifics of, the obvious differences between you and the incumbent, Gary Peters.
Well, sure, Wayne. Happy to do that. I guess first of all, I'm a husband and a father. I'm a businessman. I'm an activist in my community and a committed conservative who's been working on behalf of conservative causes and for conservative candidates for most of my adult life. Most recently, I have and continue to run my business, Renaissance Strategies. We're a marketing, public relations, and communications consulting firm based right here in Oakland County with a wide range of clients. I tell you, there's less and less time to spend on business as you get yourself immersed into a campaign of this size. But I'm very fortunate to have a great team of people to help me do what we do. And that's really what it's all about, is having a great team to do the job. I mean, you have to build a good, solid team, and that's what I've been able to do. Also working with Congressman Joe Nolenberg, who did a great job as a member of Congress representing the 9th District and the 11th District before that. I worked with him after he first got elected until about 2002, and then I came back to Michigan full-time to run my business. And after he was defeated in 2008 in the Obama landslide, if you will, I and a number of us stepped back and said, okay, where do we go from here? And a number of folks encouraged me to take a look at stepping up and running in 2010, and ultimately I made the decision to do that because the issues and the things that we're contending with today are just of such great importance and such significance, as we witnessed last night, that I felt I had to do my part because I do have the background and the experience and the ideas, I think, most importantly, to win this race.
Right. You you got started on your campaign pretty early on, and that was like last year in almost April, right?
I did, because I felt that, when I started looking at Gary Peters raising huge amounts of campaign cash from the first day he was in office, and his allegiance to Nancy Pelosi and his support for things like the stimulus bill and these budget bills that take the national debt up to almost $20 trillion by the year 2020. I thought we needed to get in early because he had all the advantages of being the incumbent and We knew it was a marathon and not a sprint, and so we started early to get out and meet folks, and it's obviously getting more intense as we get into the throes of the campaign season.
Right. Watching what happened last night, is it? I mean, just as someone who's not, again, a professional, does it seem to you that these people are just not listening to the people on the ground at all when it comes?
Well, no, I mean, yes, I think that's certainly part of it, Wayne. I think that they're listening to those that they want to hear. You know, they are following their ideology. They have become captives to their political party and to this president. And they really think that they know better than the rest of us. They think that, and this is a fundamental ideology, that believes that Washington can do better, that command and control by a handful of people who are smarter than the rest of us will fix the system. That's the way they look at things.
Right. And so right now, obviously, with you having a business and also what's your typical day like right now? Campaigning and obviously still trying to run a business. How does that work out?
Well, get up early in the morning, try to get a quick workout in, then start a conference call with my business team, kind of reviewing the events of the day, and that's on a day that I don't have an early morning breakfast event. Get back, meet with campaign staff mid-morning, off and on to a fundraising luncheon. Spend the afternoon talking to folks, spending a lot of time trying to raise money for this campaign, and then generally every evening there's an event or two or three or sometimes four. So we start early, we end late, and we try to meet as many people as we possibly can.
Right. If you were, now these are some of the things, again, if you were elected, what would be some of the immediate changes you think that you would be able to make? And obviously with the health care bill, will that be something you would try to repeal?
Yeah, I've pledged that I will vote to repeal the health care bill that was passed last night by Congress, by the House of Representatives, and replace that with real reforms that focus on free market solutions without expanding the size of government like this is done. So clearly that would be a top priority for me. But the real priority, when we get back to it, Wayne, is the creation of jobs. And when I talk about jobs, I'm not talking about another public sector job. I'm talking about real private sector jobs, long-term employment, recognizing that we cannot have employees without employers. I want to create more of both. And we do that by reducing the debt, creating structures that incentivize people to hire and to invest and to take a chance. I mean, we have provided very little incentive for entrepreneurs to take risk and to make that step. I want to create and get us back and light the lamp of entrepreneurialism here in the United States of America, because in the long term, that is our only solution to getting people back to work and growing our economy.
Right. In Michigan, is the challenge even that much harder with obviously in creating and bringing new businesses here with the unions and things of that nature that kind of stifle some of these businesses from coming here? What are some of the bigger roadblocks in Michigan for creating jobs?
Well, Michigan has tied its own hands over the course of the last 8 years in particular, as we're sort of becoming, or America's sort of becoming what Michigan has been for quite some time, a government that relies not on the individual but rather on the government itself to lead the way, and you see how successful that's been. Yes, Michigan has got some real challenges, and there's no doubt we've put all our eggs in the basket of automotive in many respects, certainly in southeastern Michigan for a long time, and it's been very good to us for many years. But as the automotive industry has dramatically changed, our status, our quality of life, or not even so much our quality of life, but our standard of living has changed with it. And so we've got to recognize that the jobs from 1965 are not coming back in 2010. And we have got to create a system that puts more small business in the driver's seat to create the jobs of the future.
Right. Would you say that in Michigan also, and obviously throughout the country, because, again, you can, like you said, things have happened in Michigan are slowly happening in other places. what do you think? What can we do to improve the education system here and to make that a bigger part of the future? Is obviously with jobs and training with like math and science.
There's no doubt. I think all this ultimately comes back to education, and that's really a function of local school boards and local communities deciding how best to educate their children, and they're facing very difficult times because Michigan has been in such dire straits that teachers and school boards and administrators and ultimately parents are confronted with real challenges in terms of that. One of the things I certainly wouldn't do, as we saw President Obama do, was to appoint Jennifer Granholm as one of my two top economic advisors on my transition team. I don't know what she had to say to Barack Obama, but whatever she did seems to have been taken to heart. Look, we have got to recognize that at the core of all of this is to educate our children, each and every child, in a way that gives them the skills that they need to be productive citizens, marketable skills that they can go out into the workplace, whether they want to become a PhD or a painter or a plumber, whatever it might be. We have got to give kids those kinds of skills and teach to that. And we have to recognize that the children who are in urban school districts have as much should demand as much of our attention as kids everywhere. But ultimately, parents are responsible, and we've got to provide choices for them because they're the ones that know best for their kids. At the same time, parents have a responsibility and an obligation to step up for their children and to become involved in those children's lives and their educational plan. That's a central component for educating our kids for the next generation.
So do you feel like the charter schools and obviously choice, when you say choice, do they have the option of charter schools could maybe make these some of the public school systems that have been failing so far, maybe make them more accountable in certain areas?
Well, in many districts, in many parts of this country, and certainly this state, we have outstanding public education, and I think my hat's off to so many teachers who work so hard to do that. But like everything else, we've got to instill competition into education. We should be giving parents more choices about where best to provide an education to their children, and we've got to demand more from those parents and from those school districts. I'm one that believes that we need to also do an approach that provides a carrot as well as a stick from Washington. And again, keep in mind that I think the bulk of education policy has to be driven at the state and local level. But I'm looking at something that I like to call educational empowerment zones that target those districts in the greatest need of assistance and provides incentives for them to succeed, as opposed to whacking them over the head if they don't. And maybe it's a little bit of both, and we're still working that through. But I think that part of our responsibility as conservatives and Republicans is to address the problems and the challenges facing urban America and go into the community and say, what can we do? We need to listen as much as we do talk to these folks there and create some consensus and reach out so that we can better represent all the people of this country.
Hey, Paul, I got somebody calling in here. Would you like to take a call real quick?
Sure, bring it on. You bet. Happy to do it.
All right, let's see here. I'm about to take a caller here. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
Hey, how are you guys doing tonight?
Great.
We're great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I just got out of a Broward County Republican meeting, and I want to tell you about an exciting couple candidates I saw tonight. And I follow you guys on Twitter. I'm Florida Jayhawk on Twitter.
Okay.
Oh, great.
Florida Jayhawk. I know I follow you because I was looking at my BlackBerry driving down the road, and I saw your name. Hang on a second. I gotta cut over here and get off of this exit. But anyway, so I want to tell you, Brian Riley is an outstanding candidate. If you guys have not seen Brian Riley for Congress, I think it's .net. And he's on Twitter, Brian Riley 2010. He's running for Debbie Wasserman Schultz's seat. And just a fantastic story. The guy was very poor growing up, had 8 brothers and sisters. Yes,
Can
sir.
you hear me, Jay? We're talking right now. Are you listening to the whole show? Are you listening online?
No, I'm driving down the road. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get off track. Sorry about that.
Well, hey, listen, let me just say this. I mean, you would do America a great favor, Jay, by doing what you can for Brian Riley down there, because Debbie Wasserman Schultz has really epitomized some of the problems that in this Congress. I mean,
Exactly.
the minute that Bart Stupak cut his so-called deal on the abortion component of the health care plan with Barack Obama, she immediately said, you know what, he can change it as fast as he can agree to it, and she is so unabashedly pro-abortion here that I just hope that she goes.
What were you talking about? Because I'm sorry, I'm driving in the car.
Oh, no, we were just covering some of the issues, and like I said, Paul's actually running for Congress here in Michigan in the 9th District, and he's facing someone, Gary Peters, who's voted with Pelosi 96% of the time, so it doesn't sound like your candidate's too much different there, so we're just kind of going through some of the particulars and, getting people's opinions, and if you had any questions to ask Paul or talk about what happened last night, you go ahead, but we're just kind of going through some things here this evening.
Well, I think it's, when you talk about Michigan, you got to look at the Democratic control for how many years there, for God's sakes. I mean, you got the unions strangling all the red tape from the government and the unions and the Democratic stronghold. I mean, they've just destroyed the state. And, sooner or later, the conservatives there need to take over that state and bring Michigan back to the days, when it was the booming economy that it was. And there's no reason why it can't. You got a great labor force up there, but if you got that labor that's run by the unions, I don't know if you can ever turn Michigan around, but I hope you can.
I know we can, Jay. I really do. I think we need help from Washington. We've got to create a business climate nationally that favors the things that we do and do well in this state. And unfortunately, this administration has done nothing but take us in the wrong direction. We have been controlled by a Democratic governor and a split legislature for far too long, but I'm excited about our candidates for governor here. We've got a primary coming up in August, and any one of our candidates will do a much better job than anything the Democrats have put up, or certainly in this last administration. But you talk about labor, and I think it's a very good point. Look, we've got some hard-working men and women, and there was a real reason for the advent of the labor movement when it first began. But in many respects, we are bleeding this state dry. We have got to be competitive. And until we do that, and it's not just with Indiana next door, but with India and everywhere across the globe. That's the reality of the situation. And so what I have suggested, and it's a state issue, it's not a federal issue, and I know some people disagree with me, but I say, the right-to-work states are where all the economic growth is occurring in this country. And if right-to-work is something that the people of Michigan want to embrace, then they ought to be given an opportunity to do that. Put it on the ballot. Let's let the people of Michigan decide whether or not that's where we should go. And let's talk about the pros and the cons, whatever your perspective might be. But we can't ignore the reality of international competitiveness. And until we embrace that, we're going to become the next Appalachia here in Michigan, and we're not going to stand for that.
It's interesting. A good friend of mine is an economist, and he taught me about long time ago when broadband came along, that we would, outsource all these white-collar jobs to whether it be India, the Philippines, and you've seen it. If you call your American Express card at 2 in the morning, you're going to get somebody in Bangalore or the Philippines. And, what was interesting when he said that to me was we're about to go through the equalization, the global equalization of labor and wages. And he said, Tim, the rich countries are going to get poor and the poor countries are going to get rich. And we talked about, the outsourcing of building auto parts and everything else a long, long time ago. The fact of the matter is that you guys got a labor force sitting there in Michigan. They all speak English. And, you can be very competitive if you don't have to pay the unions all that money and pay the high overhead, and the state needs to get somebody that understands what it is to attract an entrepreneur. And you've got to be able to cut the taxes and give somebody an economic incentive to open up a call center in Michigan and keep those white-collar jobs there, too. Because, listen, it doesn't take a rocket, you know?
Yeah, and the point I was going to make is I want to see working men and women get the highest wages possible, the highest wages they possibly can, and negotiating for that. I understand that, but we also have to remind ourselves what unions have become, particularly the public sector unions, which is now democratic political machines who take mandatory union dues, funnel it into the coffers of their political action committees, where by the direction of their leadership are supporting candidates that will advance their extreme agenda. That's what it's all about. And the hue and cry about the Citizens United decision and corporations and what have you, well, look, unions have been extracting money for their members for as long as I can remember for political purposes. And Republicans are swimming against the tide to get our message across when they do that on a compulsory basis.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thanks,
so listen, you guys have a great night. I follow you on Twitter. And
keep listening. And keep things going down in Florida. I've got a lot of family down there, particularly over in Pinellas County, and we look to you guys and wish you the best.
Well, you guys, look, if it doesn't work out for you, Michigan, come on down. It doesn't snow down here.
It's going to work here, my friend. You come on up here. We can use a good thinking conservative like you.
We'll see you later. You guys take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yep. Wow.
Well, Wayne, it just goes to prove that conservative is cool. And this is a cool show, and you got cool people listening, and this is a lot of fun.
You never know. You never know who might call in. You never know. Let's get back to some issues here. Let's see here. As far as family values, and I don't even have to ask most conservatives this, pro-life.
Very much.
Okay, because we had as we saw last night with Stupak. He's a pretender. I actually believe he grandstanded that whole time that he was going to get that vote in anyway.
I think a lot of people agree with you, and I've been saying, look, this is an issue that is at a different level, and this is an issue that cannot be dealt away. I'm very disappointed in Bart Stupak. I know Bart Stupak, and I wanted to believe that he was going to stand on his principle, and the truth of the matter is he voted for a bill that provides federal funding for abortion. And all he got in return was a piece of paper from the most pro-abortion president we've ever had in this country that can be dismissed or torn up as quickly as it was written. So I'm disappointed, and I know a lot of pro-lifers are as well, and that's one of the reasons why we got to repeal this thing in January of 2011.
Hey, Paul, you starting to get these phones ringing here. I think we got another call. We're going to take it?
All right. It's good.
All right. Let's see. Hey, we got a caller.
Oh, hey, how's it going tonight, guys?
All right, how
good.
you doing?
Hey, I'm from Maryland. We're not as totally screwed up as you guys out there, but we're heading out that way. We're trying.
Where are you from?
Maryland.
Maryland, okay. Well, so far, you said you're in Maryland. Have you listened to the show so far? You got any questions for Paul?
No, I just tuned in. I was just listening to everything you guys are saying, talking about pro-life and all. I mean, if you're talking about Stupak, that was a joke. He was going to vote the way he was going to vote anyway. The whole thing yesterday was a stage. Myself, I'm a Tea Party organizer. I'm kind of, I was upset this morning. Actually, I was kind of numb and depressed. And as the day went on, I'm kind of pissed off, and I'm more angry than ever. So
you know what? Let me just comment on that, because that is the way that I've talked to a lot of people. They felt they kind of went to bed last night and their daubers were down, but they got up today and they were more determined than ever to make sure that this doesn't happen again. They recognize, and the point was driven home, that elections have consequences. And what we saw last night was a direct result of what happened in November 2008 for a lot of reasons, and we don't need to belabor all of them. But we have an opportunity again in November 2010, whether you live in Maryland or Florida or Michigan or Montana. This is our chance for people, whether they're Tea Party types, mainstream conservatives, independents, whatever you might be, get out and vote for and work for and vote for the candidates who are going to represent common sense conservative values, the American values. That's what it is.
But you're also looking at a time that's never happened in history. What happened this weekend? They walked and destroyed the Constitution. The only thing in the way of our regime now, standing in the way of the totalitarian government, is the people. Right now, the people have more power in this country than ever before. Because we're the only thing standing in the way. They've proven over the weekend they don't care what the people think. They don't care about the Constitution. It's a golden opportunity, if you want to look at it that way. It's a time in history where people are going to look back and say we either stood up or we didn't. And you can also look at our politicians as the people that when we fought the Revolutionary War who hid and helped the redcoats. I mean, that's what we have now.
It's always come back to the people. It's always the strength of this country is its people, not its politicians, not its institutions, not some big gray building on Constitution Avenue in Washington, D.C. It's the people who are standing out there making their voices heard. And it's up to leaders like you to make sure that they don't be discouraged by what happened, but be emboldened, be determined, and use this as a lesson for why we must stand up for the things that we believe in. We got to get folks to stop carrying their signs on the street corner and now go start knocking on doors door to door and talking about candidates who are going to do the right thing, because that's the last line of defense.
You're right. We've gone past.
At this point, it's not going to do it. You got to get off instead of just being mad, you got to get off the bench and really get out and get active, like you said, going door to door, emailing your leaders, creating your own groups of people to create awareness and getting the right candidates out there. So be mad but get active.
The Tea Party's been great because it's always had a good message. We've always protested, but they've already proven that doesn't work. We have to go past that. We have to go to action. I would say the people who are involved in this movement, or more or less a revolution because the movement stops, they've got to run for office themselves. We have got to have people to run and challenge people in both primaries and retake both parties from the bottom up. Otherwise, the system is going to destroy us. I mean, a lot of the Tea Party movement is looking to create a third party, which will do nothing but destroy every bit of momentum we've had.
Right.
But our government's already proven and said they don't care. You know, they don't care if they have 1 million people out in D.C. like I went to. They don't care if they have 40,000 in 2 days like yesterday. They don't care. We've got to go past this.
Don't give up. Don't give up. That's the one thing I can tell you. I can hear it in your voice. Stay diligent. Instead of just being mad, get organized. Whether it be the person you want someone in your Tea Party exactly to run, or find the candidate that you're comfortable with. But that's my advice to you, is to not give up and stay strong, okay?
Well, I appreciate that. And I tell you, I had a prom today, but I got 4 kids. And my whole purpose in my life now is to support them, teach them, and give them a better life. And right now that's not happening. So until my government takes my last breath away or steals it from where they're going, I want to fight for that. And I am more dedicated and more angry and more motivated now than ever. And I do believe most Americans are that way. And I do believe that the people in D.C. have no clue what's coming their way. They
Make sure you use it in the right direction, okay?
All right, I appreciate it. Thanks.
God bless you, man.
God bless you.
Take care of those 4 kids.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Paul. That's one thing I've heard a lot of people on Twitter today, being mad, and I don't know if being mad can clutter your vision as far as actually thinking straight and moving forward, because that's really what we need to do at this point. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, that's absolutely right, and that's why the leadership, whether it's of the Tea Party movement, the conservative movement, or frankly the Republican Party, needs to now channel that energy, that anger, into positive, constructive action. You know, I always when I played football back in the day. I always liked to get the guy across the line from me mad, because if I got him mad at me, he was more worried about messing with me than tackling the running back that I was trying to block for. And so, you know what I'm saying, right? You get inside his head, you turn him around. But we've got to take that anger and channel that. This is no time to be distracted. We've got to keep our eye on the ball. And as we were saying just a few minutes ago, that means now putting a sign down, going to the candidates that you support and knocking on doors, making phone calls, making a small contribution or whatever you can afford so that they can get the message out. Because we have one more chance, and that is November 2nd. If we don't take advantage of that opportunity, Wayne, can you imagine what this country will look like with 2 more years of big Democratic majorities just feeding on the Obama agenda? What's going to happen? We've got to stand up, and we've got to stand up right now.
Right, exactly. I cannot agree with you more on that. That's exactly what we got to do. That's why, like I said, I was stressing to him the fact of not getting mad, but getting active, like you said, putting out signs, and also holding the people that you're going to support, hold them accountable. Because, even with the Tea Party organizations, I've been involved. I've been up to Carroll, Michigan, a few places, and I think that when you're organizing, and some people don't want to be the actual political leader, but you got to find the person that you know that's believing in what you're believing in and support that person.
Well, that's right. There's a role for everyone in the process. And the one thing I do want to remind people, though, is that we've got to be careful not to cannibalize ourselves. Right. We aren't going to necessarily agree with each other 100% of the time. My grandfather used to say if 2 people think alike 100% of the time, one of the 2 is not thinking. So understand that we are going to differ in places. But we've got to look at the character and the background and the experience and the commitment of these candidates who are stepping up, and not let these primaries tear us apart in such a way that we can't focus on the real adversary. Because I know in my case, we've got a situation where we have an incumbent who's raised more money than any other member of the Michigan congressional delegation. And if we spend all our time beating each other up in the Republican primary, the one beneficiary of that is going to be Gary Peters, the well-financed incumbent, because we'll be so bruised after a primary that it's going to be tough to pick ourselves up off the floor. And I just don't want to see that happen.
Right. Hey, Paul, I got a call here. Looks like I got somebody from Michigan here. Let me take this call. Let me see who it is. Hey, caller, we got it. Caller, you're on the air.
Well, good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Hi.
I am actually from Michigan, 6th District.
Okay.
Wonderful.
So actually our congressman is Fred Upton, and we're working right now to get him voted out of office.
All right.
He's been in there, there'll be 24 years. That's long enough. And
well, the one thing I would say about Fred, and I know Fred, I think he did yeoman's work fighting against this health care bill, both in the committee and on the floor yesterday. So,
well, he did work on that, but then he was a big pusher of cash for clunkers, the stimulus package, S-chip, the works. He is not what we have here in our county. The Republican Party itself is Fred's party, and it all belongs to Fred. Well, we have a good constitutional conservative out of the Kalamazoo area that we're backing for rep to run against him in the primaries.
Well, as I said, we just want to make sure that, and I think primaries can be very healthy if they're done right. And I just want to make sure that at the end of the day in November that we can go into Washington and we can have the strength and the support that we need to repeal the damage that's been done and to prevent any more damage from occurring.
Well, and that's what the goal is, to and I used to be a member of the Republican Party, but I tore up my Republican ID card back in 2006 when the Republican Senate passed the amnesty bill.
Okay.
I said, that's it. I can't support these people anymore. We need new blood.
Okay.
And that's what yes, I participate in the Tea Parties. I was in Washington last September. I participate in my local Tea Parties. I spoke at a Tea Party in Wisconsin.
All right.
and my goal is to throw all 535 of them out. They are all politicians. We no longer need statesmen.
Well, you're right about that, and we do need statesmen, and we do need leaders. And, you know, the thing about it is that people who go to Washington and this becomes their best job they ever had, and, you know, that's just not right. I mean, we've got to bring people who are willing to do the right thing and are worried about the next generation and not the next election.
Absolutely, and that's what my goal is. And this first time is, how long have you been doing your show here?
I've been on the air now for about 4 or 5 months online, and like I said, we do a show every Monday and Tuesday. So I try to.
Okay.
Are you following on Twitter or are you following on Facebook?
Actually, I found you just on BTR. I have my own show here too.
Oh, excellent.
I've been doing that for about 3 years.
Well, let's
Good for you.
Send me a friend request, and I appreciate you for checking in tonight. And like I said, maybe we can do some different things in the future. Okay?
Yeah, where in the state are you guys at?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Wayne.
Okay, we're both in the Farmington Hills, Metro Detroit area.
Okay, Metro Detroit. All right.
Right. I'm running against Gary Peters, who is the current incumbent, one of the 219 that voted for the Obama-Pelosi-Reid health care package last night. And so we're going to start with him because that's the real problem. We have a number of Democrats in the state who supported it. In fact, all of them did. Certainly Bart Stupak, as you know.
Well, I hope Bart gets his clock cleaned.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
He sounds like you will. So. Yep.
Well, he definitely stabbed the people of Michigan in the back. As far as
he stabbed the people of the country in the back.
Yeah.
Frankly, when you look at it, it was unfortunate. You know,
it was up to him to have some backbone, and he showed that he did. And at the end of the day, he was a politician, and he took a deal. So
right.
Somebody tweeted on Twitter tonight that Stupak spelled backwards spells kaputs.
There, I saw that one too.
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I will.
I'll tell you what, send me a friend request, and let's maybe in the future trying to do some things together, okay?
Absolutely. We got to get our state back, and fortunately the Canadian is not going to be back.
Well,
thank God for that.
We got some great candidates for the state of Michigan for our governor race, so we should be looking a lot better come November. So.
Well, I was looking at that too. Who do you like? Just for my own personal view.
Well, I'll tell you, for me, they're all friends of mine, and I just really, you know, people have asked me that, and I will tell you this: I think that any one of them would be better than the alternatives that the Democrats are throwing up. So I truly am undecided in that race, and I think the best man will win. I really do feel that way, and everybody's got to look at the background and qualifications of these candidates and make a decision for themselves. I have yet to make my mind up, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I haven't either, and you know, I've been tossing a lot of things around.
Yep.
But
all of them are winners, and like you say, you just got to pick the one that you're most comfortable with. But they're all great candidates.
Yeah, but you know, like I said, I'm a constitutional conservative, and that's what I go on. My number when I interview, let's see, I've interviewed who did I interview from Michigan? Out in the 7th district, independent that's running.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, send me a friend request, and I'll check your show out. Okay.
Okie doke.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for calling.
Yep. Have a great evening.
You too.
Bye-bye. Paul, you got a lot of calls here tonight. One way or the other, people are calling in.
We're shaking it up tonight, Wayne. You and me, buddy. This is good.
Hey,
great
man, we
stuff.
got a lot of people calling in tonight. That's something that I guess we didn't even really get to yet, and we basically now we have a couple calls in a row. What is your actual feelings on the Tea Parties and the whole Tea Party movement? Like I said, I've been invited to an event up in Carroll. I had a great time up there, and from what I've seen, it's been pretty good. What's your take on the whole?
I would say it's been better than pretty good. It's been outstanding. I tell you what, starting last year, I've been to Tea Parties primarily here in Oakland County, in my neck of the woods, and I met some of the most wonderful people I've ever met. I mean, I remember two elderly, mature ladies, I would say, who had never been involved in politics before, but they just were concerned about the future for their children and their grandchildren, and they decided to come out and participate in the Tea Party activities, and they're sitting in their lounge chairs holding their signs, and they just said to me, God bless you. We need young men, and I liked it when they called me a young man, like you to get out there and fight, and we're with you all the way. So, and you see that thousands of times over, people who have never really been involved in the process. And that's okay. I understand that. But now they are. They recognize that what's at stake, and they're willing to do something about it. So, God love them for what they're doing, and keep it up. And now, as I say, though, I think the Tea Party movement has got to sort of understand that it comes down to these elections and to get behind candidates. And I hope they'll continue to get behind our campaign and allow us to win in the fall.
All right. Let's see here. Can you give me? I want to give you. I posted your website and gave some information. Would you like to give out your website information?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, and I encourage people to take a look at it. It's www.weldayforcongress.com. That's spelled WELDAY for Congress.com.
Excellent. And what are any upcoming events that we should know about?
Well, we've got some town hall meetings. We've done more town hall meetings, probably 3, 4, 5 times as many as the incumbent congressman has done here in our district. We've got them coming up in Rochester Hills and Bloomfield Township. I don't have the exact dates in front of me right now. We may even try to pull together something as quickly as this Saturday to get more of a focus on health care, and I know people want to talk about that. And so we're out in the community every day. In fact, participated in a new movement led by Wendy Day, who's a leader of the Tea Party movement, and Representative Tom McMillan put on the ballot a initiative that would protect Michigan from the health care takeover that was passed yesterday. I don't know the exact language. I'm not sure if it's been finalized yet, but we joined them for their press conference today, and that was outstanding.
All right. I got a caller here from the 313, Paul. Let's go ahead and take this call here.
Sounds good.
Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
This is Eric from Detroit.
How you doing,
Hey, Eric. How's it going?
Great. I just really I've only been listening to the show for maybe about 20 minutes, and I really want to understand from a regular southeastern Michigan perspective. I mean, what's your beef with what the Democrats are doing with health care, and how do you propose to make it better?
Okay. That's a very fair question, and we could talk a lot about that. I think, you start out by saying, what exactly is health care anyway? Health care means different things to different people. And one of my problems is that the federal government is now basically defining that and mandating that for everybody. Health care for a young, single male who wants to start a business is maybe a little bit different than health care for someone who has not lived a healthy lifestyle, and now we're all going to be responsible for maintaining the health care responsibilities for that individual. But
so let me ask you a question, Mr. Welday. Do you believe that health care is a fundamental right for average tax-paying American?
No, I don't believe that it's a right. I don't believe that it is a constitutional right. But I do believe that everyone should have access
a compassionate right, I should say,
to affordable health care. Yeah, I sure do. I mean, if you're walking across Woodward Avenue by a car, we have every obligation to make sure that you're given the care that you need. But at the same time,
and essentially we have that, don't we?
You gotta let
we do. Yeah.
Everybody can. That is my problem with the whole bill, because actually everybody can be seen, pretty much. To be seen has access to affordable. Well, I won't say affordable health care, but yeah, everybody has access to health care, and essentially, in going to an emergency room, you won't be turned down.
Well, you are absolutely right. And here's the issue that we should have been dealing with, which is the problem. There are two problems. One is access to the individual insurance market for health care, and secondly is the cost of health care. And that's the problem. I don't know that this does much on either account, really, because it gets so far beyond the fundamental problem.
I'm glad you said that, Mr. Welday, because that's what we need to be focusing on.
We can do a few things. We can, for a fraction of the cost of this bill, which is a huge problem and concern of mine, have provided tax credits to individuals who want to get into the individual insurance market. You and I both know that if you work for General Motors, you get insurance through General Motors, and that's fine. They pay with pre-tax dollars. But if you get laid off from General Motors, now you've got to go out and buy Cobra, and you're paying that with after-tax dollars. Why don't we level the playing field so you now can use pre-tax dollars to buy Cobra? Or if you're in the General Motors plan...
So to understand it, you're looking into a buy-in system,
which
is essentially the same as what the Democrats are proposing?
No. I'm not sure you'd call it a buy-in system at all. What I'm trying to do is to level the playing field to give individuals the same rights as we give corporations when it comes to purchasing health care. Excuse me.
Such as a buy-in system.
Well, you can. What I want to say is that you can then buy into health care as an individual with tax credits on a means-adjusted basis, so that we've leveled the playing field. Now, and if you also say that you can buy health insurance anywhere in the country, you as an individual can buy a plan that fits the needs of yourself and your family, whether it's in Delaware, California, or right here in Michigan.
So
that's the other thing we have.
True competition system.
Through competition, and I can assure you now that if individuals are entering into the market, they're responsible for their own health care. They can buy it from any provider anywhere in the country. There's going to be competition, which in turn lowers costs. The other thing we've got to do...
I agree with you. I'm glad. Preach, brother. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the other thing we simply have to do is to recognize that if we don't change tort reform and make legal reform part of the process, we're never going to get it under control.
So with that being said, what's your issue with the Democrats' proposal? I'm sorry.
Well,
you got to let them finish the answer, and then if you have another question after that.
Let me just give you three things that concern me a great deal. One is the cost of this particular bill. They jumped up and down, hooted and hollered because they kept it under $1 trillion. It's not under $1 trillion. This is going to cost us close to $1.5 trillion, which we cannot afford. Number two is that in order to pay for it, they want to raise taxes by $530 billion, this is absolutely the wrong time to do that. And number three, the thing I think that concerns me as much as anything is what does it do to Medicare? The seniors of this country who have come to rely on that program now find themselves facing a situation where their Medicare is very much in jeopardy. And I know Democrats dispute that, but the truth is when you tell me you're going to cut $500 billion out of the system, I can tell you that that's going to result in rationing of health care to those who need it the most. Those three things.
So where does that money go, though? I mean, so is it just a transferring of the money? I mean, help me to understand that. Because I really don't know what's in the bill. Nobody knows.
Well, that's part of the problem, too. How do you vote on a bill? They tell us that all the debate that could be had was had. Well, you know what? They haven't even read the bill. They don't even know what's in it. Nancy Pelosi says, we'll pass it, and then you'll figure it all out.
And
so a lot of this speculation. Yeah, exactly. Where does that money go? That money goes to create a new health choices commission in the federal government that establishes an exchange that will transfer that wealth and provide a certain level of coverage to an additional 30 million people into the system. Now, again, we want to make sure that people have access to the health care that they need. But by the same token, when you inject 30 million people into the system with the same number of providers, demand goes up, and I assure you supply will go down. And what will that do? That, too, will drive up cost. That's basic economics.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. So, but you already have a certain amount of monies that are allocated to Medicare. So it's are you saying that it's simply a transfer of money to the let's call it Obamacare for lack of a better term,
mm-hmm.
that's transferred from Medicare to the Obamacare program.
Yes, it is. I mean, I think that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it.
Yep. Well,
Okay.
Paul, thank you for calling in.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I've used up my time, but you keep up the good fight.
Hey, keep listening. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it very much.
All
And
right,
come on up
take
to
care.
Oakland County. We'd be glad to have you with us.
All righty.
All right. Paul, you just getting people calling in all night here tonight, man.
That's it. That's what it's all about.
We thought we were gonna have a little 20-minute interview. It's going on the whole 50. Let's end on a good note. How about those Spartans yesterday?
Oh, listen, I was flipping my TV back from the game to the debate on the House floor, and I got back just in time to see that guy from Maryland put up those 2 points with 6 seconds left, and then I think it was Draymond Green brings the ball down the court, passes it to Corey Lucas up with the 3 outside the arc. Oh, he makes it. My God, I almost died.
It was a beautiful day yesterday.
Beautiful thing.
So we had good and bad.
It was all downhill after that, but that was at least we had something to take away from yesterday.
Yes, indeed.
Did you hear the line that they used in the Drudge Report? They said that yesterday was a day that will live in infirmary.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
No doubt.
Well, Paul, I thank you so much for coming. Let me give everybody one more minute to call in here. 347-996-3175. If you got any more questions for Paul, he's more than happy to take your questions. So give us a call, 347-996-3175. Again, I appreciate you for coming on. Give us the website address again and any other information they might want to know.
Yeah, Wayne, the website is www.weldayforcongress.com, and we invite you to come and take a look. It has breaks down our action plan, talks a little bit about my background, some of the issues in greater detail, of which there are quite a few. We post up some videos and just having some fun with that. And I just want to thank you for what you're doing, because I think it is so important for young people like yourself, young African-American leaders, to get out and to encourage others to be involved in the process. And this is, as you say, conservatism is cool if people want to embrace it, and we hope that they do.
Thank you very much. I'm doing my best. I'm trying my best to bring it to different places that it hasn't been before. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate you for coming on again. So,
well, I'd be happy to do it any time too. Just let me know. We've got to use this tool to reach out to people across the country, certainly right here in Michigan, and we can do that. And I'm happy to participate anytime you'd like, or help you get some other folks that might be able to talk about some of these issues if I can.
And you can count on me this summer, hopefully, doing something for you at the Caustic Center right out here in Farmington Hills.
That's awesome, my friend. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. Looks like we're going to wrap up here. And, again, I definitely will have you back on the show. We're going to follow you through this campaign here.
Thanks, Wayne. Take care. Have a great night.
All right, you too. God bless you. Thanks, Paul.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. That was Paul Welday, our runner for Congress, 9th District here in Michigan. Thanks again, Paul, for coming on. I want you again to recognize that in every state, regardless of where you live at, that congressperson that's running, in particular like in Michigan, as you saw last night with Stupak, can affect the rest of the country. So it's really important that we support good conservative candidates. And again, I encourage you to check out Paul's website address, and to, if you can, donate, help him in his cause to get Gary Peters out of Congress, because again, we don't need someone that's voting with anyone 96% of the time. But when we're talking about Queen Pelosi, it's definitely someone we need to help make the changes with. So give me a call here. Let me know if you enjoyed the interview. If you got any questions, 347-996-3175. We're going to talk about a couple of other people we're going to have coming on the shows here in the next couple of days. Tomorrow night, I'm going to have Randy Pullen from the GOP chairman in Arizona on the show. I got a call here. I'm going to take this call.
Hello.
Caller, you're on
Hello.
the air. Caller.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. Did you guys? This is Chris from Florida again.
Hey, Chris, what's going on, buddy?
Nothing. How you doing?
All right.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. I heard you have a lot of other people call, so I kind of let them call in.
I wish you'd have called in just before Paul hung up here. What did you have?
I was actually behind like about 6 minutes on your program tonight.
Pardon me?
When I started listening, I was already 6 minutes behind.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, did you guys talk about the IRS is going to come collect that from you now, from the healthcare, what they're going to charge you? And do you think that this is going to be worse than what Canada has?
Do I think it's going to be worse than what Canada has? Well, let's start with the IRS question first. I posted some information earlier about them hiring, I think, was it going to be 16,500 agents to monitor the situation, obviously making sure people are, they're actually going to have to hire these people to actually manage the healthcare issue now that it's going to become an IRS issue. So I don't. Anytime the IRS has to get more involved in your business, obviously that's not a good thing. And as far as it being comparable to Canada, the bigger issue I have with it being comparable to Canada is that Canada only has 30 million citizens. We have 300 million.
Right.
And the scope of it is just so much larger. If we were only talking about 20, 30 million people, I don't think that we would be in such the uproar of what we're talking about.
Talking about
total revamping of the way the healthcare system is ran. And then once you're talking about the government getting involved in that, a lot of people aren't going to trust that. So
right. Well, see, their estimate is 30 million extra people are going to have insurance. If your rough estimate is 300,000, that's more like 75 million. 30 million opposed to 75 million is closer to probably the actual number, not the 30 million that they're talking about. If you're talking about 25% of 300 million.
Yeah, I don't see how they can, put these numbers up, considering the fact that that's going to change. It's going to change a lot of the way people do business, and the fact that if they got a government program out there, a lot of jobs might not be willing to provide insurance anymore. I mean, it's going to change things, and really the thing is, I believe that they're going to really have to go through this bill a lot to see what kind of triggers are put in place to expand the programs. And in the beginning they were trying really hard to put in these the public option single payer systems and that kind of thing. And I think that what you're really going to pay attention to in the future is what kind of amendments and what kind of things that they tuck away in that 2,700 page bill that will expand it even larger than what they're initially talking about right now.
Right, because that the doctors are going to become government employees too. There's
that's the part where the quality of education, the quality of care, and how I don't know how that will improve when you're telling these doctors who spend 18 years in school, that their income is essentially going to be fixed now that they're getting out, and it might be other avenues and other career paths that these people might choose. I mean, that's just that's part of the risk of what they're doing right now, and I guess time will tell to see how that goes. But when you're telling people, these people are going to be doctors right now, I'm sure they want to help the sick and they want to cure people and those kind of things, but they're also doing it because they want to make a lot of money. And they go to school for a long time to do that. So now when you start telling them their incomes are going to be fixed, and certain ways that the costs are going to be fixed, that it might change that dynamic. So I guess
it kind of sends a signal to me in particular that an abortion doctor is possibly going to wind up making more money than a regular physician that really matters on your life, opposed to irresponsible decision that an adult makes when they know that there's preventions of that.
Well, again, because we haven't seen the bill, and we know even our leaders haven't fully read it. It's going to be very interesting, and I guess we can only hope that some of the GOP leaders and their staff are going to really get touch the meat of this bill. So time will tell, and again, we're going to have to keep our GOP candidates and our GOP leaders honest too, and making sure they actually read this thing. So time will tell, and again, we'll just have to focus on seeing exactly where that's going to take us. But I don't see it hopefully getting to the level of Canada. It could be worse than Canada with the fact of the sheer numbers.
Well, because they're charging us $750, then they're going to charge us a tax on tax that you're going to see anytime you go and buy something.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, they're going to figure out ways to extract that money, and again, that's the part where I think a lot of people overall are just upset with the idea of government getting so involved in that. But hey, look, Chris, I've got 43 seconds left for the night. I'll be appreciate you calling in. We got another show tomorrow night. I got Randy Pullen, the chairman of the Arizona GOP, on tomorrow, and I hope you're listening in. Feel free to call back in and maybe ask him some of those questions too. I'm sure he has some good answers for that.
Okay, I'll try. It's on at 10 o'clock, right?
10 o'clock.
Tomorrow.
Thanks for calling in, and thanks for all your help, man. I appreciate it.
All right, no problem.
God bless you.
You too.
All right. Well, got 10 seconds on the air tonight. Thank you for everyone that listened and called in. I appreciate you for listening. God bless you. Good night. I'll be on tomorrow at 10 o'clock Eastern.